I'm guessing the answer to that is yes. So I grabbed the first sergeant and I said, look, you're going to dump the company in a fucking pile, okay? At the time, with the 30 new Marines, we had about 120-something Marines slated to deploy. That was 122 trigger pullers was all I was going to have. So you divide that equally amongst 4 rifle platoons. That gives you 12 10-man squads. So I want you to print out a list of every Marine in the company, sergeant on down. We had 2 sergeants at the time, a dozen corporals, and all the rest, lance corporals and below. And you're going to hold an NFL-style draft. And to make this fair, Kilo 1 will get first pick first round. Kilo 4 will get 4th pick first round. For the second round, Kilo 4 will get first pick. And we'll just go back and forth. You're going to fill in squad leaders first, then fire team leaders, then weapons specialists in every fucking squad, and then fill in the rest of the fire teams. And at the time, we only had 2 lieutenants, Dave Fleming, Kilo 1, and Jay Johnson had Kilo 2. But our Kilo 3 platoon commander had rotated out, and the weapons platoon commander had fleeted up as XO, Rudy Salcio. So Ferg was covering down as platoon commander for Kilo 4, and he became the Kilo 4 platoon commander. And so now it wasn't just Kilo 1 through 3 and whiskey, it was Kilo 4. So 4th pick, first round, he picked Corporal Travis Struker, wrestler out of Iowa. And,
good call.
Right? And then
he was another one of my saw gunners that I had through OIF1, so I knew he was a solid guy, leadership-wise and everything.
Awesome.
And then first pick, second round, Ferg picked an 0331 machine gunner, Corporal Dunham.
And what was that based on?
Well, during the that 5 months that we had, I had the weapons platoon, so I got to work with Jason Dunham, and I got to see his leadership, and the kid just had that it factor. And I think the biggest thing about him was, one of the abilities, he could laugh at himself, but the thing is, I think his leadership was so awesome because he would tailor it to each individual Marine. We all know he can have a certain style of leadership, but I really liked the way he did that, and it took me almost 3 years at the School of Infantry from corporal to sergeant to get that, because I had 50 different cycles, so I could play good cop, bad cop, I can experience. But one of the biggest things I found out, even with brand new Marines, if you give them a reason why, or you tell them what's going on, they work that much better for you. So if this is with a bunch of boots that are just out of boot camp and they perform that much better for you, then imagine what that's going to do for a bunch of fleet lance corporals and corporals. And I just liked his style, and I know I was taking a chance because I even got laughed at by some peers because we had a company full of combat veterans. And they're like, whoa, you used your second pick to pick Jason Dunham, a guy from security forces that had no combat experience. But I'm like, that's one of my picks. That's who I want as a squad leader. And one of the great things that they did, though, they did spread out the talent, because what they did is Kilo 1 through 4, they put the senior platoon commander in Kilo 1. And then all the way, and then Kilo 4 had the boot platoon commander, the juniors guy. And then for the staff NCOs, we did the opposite. Yeah. The brand new, or the juniors one, was in Kilo 1, and I was the senior staff NCO, so I had Kilo 4.
Yeah.
And that was good. But also with the draft, one of the big things that Kilo 6 forgot to mention, one of the nights we were almost going to do it at night, but we were working on godly hours, training, everything, and I'm like, I need a couple hours for this. Because myself and Gunny Walker took it seriously. At the time, Staff Sergeant Walker, I went home and I basically I got a company roster and I put everybody into 4 categories, from must-have, great, average, hell no. And then I evenly did this, and I put that, and then even once they were in these categories, I ranked them 1 through 30 or whatever. So when I went in there, I was ready with all my picks. I was going right down the list, and then boom. Then I had like little triangles or squares for saw gunners or 0331s and 51s. And restructuring the company at the time, it was kind of like a groundbreaking, but it was by far one of the best decisions we ever did. And me spending 3 hours that night, my wife was mad at me doing that set up the foundation for having a great platoon, because who gets to pick their own platoon? And I got to experience a lot of these guys in real world combat ops and real world training. So I felt very fortunate. And we just
it's kind of like an unfair advantage for you because you knew the guys better than the officers would, right?
Right. And then also with the other platoon commanders, I knew like their 2 top squad leaders too, so that their picks would be. So I wouldn't even put those guys on my board because I anticipated them taking their first 1, 2, or 3 guys, and so it just worked out really well for myself personally, the platoon, and then also for the company.
And Ferg with the strategic maneuvers out there.
Yeah,
you got to watch out for those staff sergeants. They're gonna make it happen.
Well, I'll tell you, it was impressive because the 2 guys who took that draft the most seriously were Ferg and Walker, and you could tell when the first sergeant put the final rosters in front of me, you could tell who had put the most work into it. And it's a testament to this man's sense of commitment and responsibility, his degree of ownership to put that much time into it. And we didn't have any goddamn time. I made this decision on a Wednesday, Thursday, right, of our second to last week of training. And we pulled the trigger on Friday, right? So by the time the Marines went on their 2-week Christmas leave block, the new squad organizations had been announced. But the first time that those squad leaders stood in front of their Marines was on the 2nd of January up at March Air Force Base on the first day of the last 5 days of battalion level training that we were going to have before we fucking deployed. So we accepted a degree of risk in it, but in the end, getting that spread of talent, experience, leadership, and fresh blood, spreading it evenly across the company, I felt quite confident going into OAF2 that I could plug any rifle squad into a mission and that they'd be able to pull it off.
Yeah, and you kind of ripped the Band-Aid off. Just like, hey, we're just going to do this. We got to do it.
We got no choice.
Let's do it. Otherwise, you wait till in country, and all of a sudden you're looking around going, damn, this isn't working the way it's supposed to work, and I need to start moving people around, and that's infinitely worse than just getting it done. So Bill and Kelly, were you guys immediately in Jason's squad? Is that how that worked?
When I first arrived, I was in the 1st platoon for the 1st battalion ops that lasted 5 days before Christmas leave. So, no, I'd seen him, but I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who Bill was. I only knew the guys I showed up with. So
you're keeping your mouth shut and your ears open.
I was really good at keeping my mouth shut and my ears open, do what you're told. So I got put in charge of a couple of the other boots to make sure they were squared away when I got there. My most memorable memory, actually, of when we first showed up is I met First Sergeant Templeton at the time. At the time, Captain Gibbs comes over and addresses us. And I just remember, it's the weirdest memory. He stood with the sun directly at his back. I had no fucking idea what he looked like at all. I couldn't see him. I couldn't see features. I couldn't see anything. But if you ever met this man, when he talks, you listen. And I just remember, like, the presence he had. I was like, I'll go to war with this guy. I like this guy. So.
And what'd you think about the reorg, Bill?
Be honest.
I think Carbajal and I we had choice words for ourselves that we kept to ourselves. Mm-hmm. But in the end, trusted Staff Sergeant Ferguson, we were, hey.
No, and I can elaborate on that too, because if you think you got these 2 guys that have been through 9 months and they know the drill, and then they got this brand new security force corporal coming in. And I saw there's some animosity, and obviously if they were senior to him, then these guys by all right would have had that. But Jason had the rank and everything, and I saw the leadership, so I had to take that chance. And it was weird to see the bond because the 2 fire team leaders, like I said, they were a little butthurt a little bit about that. But then the way Jason eventually won them over and everything is just his smile, his leadership. He just did that to people.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to get put into. You got no combat experience. You're rolling in here, and you're going to start taking over for guys that do have combat experience that certainly think that they deserve that role. That's a tough one.
One of the things that Dinka brought up about the reorganization, like from a brand new boot who doesn't know anything. As soon as the reorganization happened, one of the side effects was I learned how to shoot machine guns because I was surrounded by a couple machine gunners. I learned about mortars. I learned about demo. By the time I deployed, I had Dunham had grilled me so hard about machine guns I could clear an operated 240. I understood like the basics to shooting a 50 cal if I had to in a pinch. I had more knowledge than I was trained for at the School of Infantry. So like that reorganization really started to crossbreed us in everything. And I wasn't just an 0311. I was more of an 03 everything because I could function in more than one situation with one weapon.
Yeah, that's good across the board. So you guys did that reorg January?
Right after leave.
Well,
before
we pulled the trigger on it the day before they went on 2 weeks of leave.
Okay.
For Christmas.
Got it.
The first time those the new squad stood together was on day 1 of training on the 2nd of January.
Got it. And then you guys come back. When you guys come back, you said you do one more big battalion exercise
that was
in January?
That was it. Second through the 6th, yeah.
And then just it's loadout time because you guys are deploying in February. And did you guys know where you were going on deployment to?
Yeah. What
was the kind of thoughts heading out there? How much did you guys know about it?
We started
heading out to Al Qaim. That's where you got getting told you're going out to Al Qaim.
Yeah. The battalion was already leaning into it. George Schreffler was the operations officer. He'd had Lima Company during the march up, and he's hands down the most comprehensively proficient and professional Marine I've ever been honored to serve with. And so he was getting as much intel as he could from the cavalry squadron that we were turned over with, 1st to the 3rd ACR, was up in Al Qaim. By the time we got there, they had been in country for 11 freaking months. And they were operating out of their they had a base up on the Syrian border at Useba, and then their cavalry headquarters was at the train station in Al Qaim, which was about 28 miles southeast of the border post at Useba. So we knew that things were going to hell in a handbasket up there. And across Iraq as a whole, if you were listening to news reports, I'd listen to NPR every morning coming in, and if you were paying attention, you knew that this was going to be the Wild West, and it wasn't going to be the same kind of environment that we had experienced at the end of the push-up, in the last 3 months of OF1. And it really hit me one day when I was coming in, listening to NPR News, and an Army rifle company commander had been killed that week. And to hear that on the radio, knowing that a rifle company commander is killed, that you know that this is going to be a different fucking show altogether.
What's your deployment? The actual logistics of the deployment you guys are flying over? Yeah.
So we flew in. I went ahead of the battalion main body. Was our company gunny, Elia Fontecchio, who was killed on the 4th of August. He and I went over with the rest of the other company commanders and company gunnies to get things ready. So we went into Al Qaim. We were there probably a week, I think, before the battalion's main body, started echeloning in, flew into Kuwait, and then trucked all the way up from Kuwait. So these guys were pretty tired by the time they got up there. But so we fell in on